And we are live December 19th, 2021. A very special edition of the podcast. Quite random edition. Well, random for you guys. You didn't know it was coming, but not random for me and EM Tech. EM Tech, what's going on, man? Glad to have you
What
on the
up,
show. Welcome,
man?
bud. We're going to be talking some cellular stuff tonight, man. Glad to have you. Welcome to the show. First time on.
Thank you,
And
thank you.
yeah, man. What we're going to do with tonight's show is we're going to ask 3 poll questions, and we're just going to look at the feedback from the nation, and then we'll kind of do our own personal perspective, opinion, impressions, analysis of it. And then we'll start to question the people and their voting, right? We'll try to look at it from their angle. We'll look at each of their selections. We'll look at the voting percentage demographic. We'll look at how the polls turned out, and then we'll just discuss those things, right? So we'll be pretty thorough, I think. We'll look at the question, we'll look at the variables, and then we'll look at the results, and we'll just kind of go with that. We're going into 2022, and it's a big year for 5G. It's a big year for each of the carriers. Each of them, I think, has a different goal, a different thing that they're going to focus on. I take a look at, say, for example, AT&T, big on fiber, right? That fiber is going to catapult them through 5G and their networking and wireless. It's going to be a big part of what they do with wireline. I feel very strongly that it's going to be one of the reasons they win in a lot of respects relative to their business. That's why I seem to give them the upper hand in a lot of cases. Dish is a wild card. We don't know what to expect. We don't know what they're going to do. We don't know how they're going to launch. We don't know if they're going to compete. There's a lot of questions with Dish. And we know T-Mobile's MO. We know what they want to do. They've got home internet. They've got wireless aspirations for just traditional mobility. And they're now technically the number 2 carrier after they surpassed AT&T and postpaid subscribers. And they've got goals and ambitions. And then Verizon, they have a lot of things that they've got planned that they want to execute. 5G home, 5G business, MEC, mobile edge computing. I think Verizon as well as AT&T are launching, well, and T-Mobile too, and Dish, because they're going to launch standalone 5G network cores are going to be big. Open RAN is probably going to start to pick up some steam. We've got release 18 of 5G coming up. I mean, all these things are happening next year. Man, I'm just going to ask 3 questions tonight. We'll poll the nation. We'll talk to EM Tech and myself. We'll give our perspectives, and we'll see how things shake out by the end of the show. What do you think, EM Tech?
Sounds like a plan to me.
All right, bro. We got the first poll up. We will need you guys to vote. So, SMT Nation, let your voice be heard in the live chat. If you click on that blue box, you'll see like a little weird perforated digital line. You can click in that poll, and then you can vote in the first of 3 polls tonight. Which carrier will have the best power user data plan in 2022? Now, this question is important because this is kind of predictive. So we know what AT&T is doing, right? AT&T has the Elite. In my opinion, I think it's the best wireless mobility plan. I don't think any other carrier offers a better combination of features, priority, and just overall network experience on that plan. There's no deprioritization. There's tons of hotspot and tethering data. The video resolution playback is really unmatched, in my opinion. If they have bandwidth, if they have capacity, you're getting it and you can use it for whatever you want. I think T-Mobile has the closest thing to the Elite. The only reason I give AT&T Elite the edge over Magenta MAX is because I think AT&T has more uniform capacity. So in my opinion, I think it's a much more capacitive experience for everything that you want to do with the Elite. But I think Magenta MAX is right there. When you think about just features and the allowances and the deprio and all of that, I think those two are neck and neck. I give the edge to AT&T. Dish, I can't speak to. I don't know what they're going to do, but they would be wise to come in swinging for the fences as the new incumbent, right? The new entrant, or I should say. AT&T we know, T-Mobile we know, Verizon we know. Dish is an unknown commodity, but they're going to have to come in and shake things up in wireless. They're going to have to be aggressive. So I just, it's a shot in the dark if you think Dish is going to come in with a power user plan. But, I mean, who knows? Maybe they do come in and swing for the fences, offer a great plan, a great value with, incredible priority and user experience. And then Verizon's the wild card too. They don't really have a true power user plan. Their version of a power user plan is a 720p video resolution plan. You have to pay an additional fee just to get 1080p, and that's with their most expensive premium plan. So it's like they're due for a revamp. So I think a lot of people, myself included, are anticipating with a newfound layer of capacity on their network that's going to change. I think Verizon would be wise, smart, and in tune with the the market to compete with the others. All right, EM Tech, I just ran through the whole thing with the floor. Where are you at with each of them? Do you see things my way, or do you see it kind of differently?
I think I kind of agree with most of the things you kind of highlighted. I will say, after using AT&T Elite on the consumer side as my personal service for the last almost 2 years now, it's been a fantastic experience. They've got a good network. They're building out more. Speeds are good. Latency's good. T-Mobile, they have opportunities to really capitalize on Magenta MAX. The biggest opportunity I see for them is just improving back-end networking. Because as we all know, there's issues with T-Mobile and certain services. Even if you're on the best plan, you're paying the highest amount, there's still long-term issues that they haven't fixed. But Verizon is the one I'm really excited about, because with C-band, added capacity, they can capitalize on all of those streaming services that they offer. They can take advantage of this newfound network that they're going to have eventually. And Dish, I have reservations on. I know that, people in the community like Carlos and those people are kind of rooting for Dish, but I still have reservations. I don't see them being the power user carrier. I see them being the low cost, consumer friendly option still. Like that, I think that's going to be their target demographic in 2022.
So you don't think they even target or offer a power user plan?
I doubt it. I mean, maybe, but we'll have to wait and see once their native network goes live what the capacity and performance is like. And I know we're going to get firsthand looks, especially in Vegas. If it performs really well, I could totally see them going for the hills with it. But I just don't know if it's feasible in 2022, maybe 23 or 24, but we'll see.
All right. I can tell you, looking at the poll, there's looking at the results, I'm looking at the percentages thus far. We have 42 votes. In the live chat, you'll see the poll. You guys can vote. Go ahead. If you're just coming into the live stream, if you're just coming into the podcast, cast your vote. AT&T, Dish, T-Mobile, or Verizon. Those are your 4 choices. Which carrier will have the best power user data plan in 2022? Okay, so, we kind of talked about the way things are looking and shaping up for next year, of what we know and what we don't know. I'm going to kind of just address these super chats here. Big shout out to Nikki T. He said, thanks for the invite on the show tonight. Promise we will soon. It'd be an honor and a pleasure to have you on, sir. So whenever you can get the moment to, we'd love to have you. And big shout out to Ray. Welcome to Ray's. Thank you for your super chat as well, my friend. Thank you so much. MS chimes in. I think that Verizon could potentially lose the 5G race. More importantly, public perception of their network to AT&T and T-Mobile if they don't make a play for the enthusiast crowd. Yeah, I think that's really the only thing missing from the Verizon portfolio. They have a kids plan, they have a starter unlimited, They've got like a middle plan. They've got a higher tier plan, but they don't have an Elite and they don't have a Magenta MAX. And they just have to offer that. That's all they have to do. Like they can charge what I believe to be somewhere around $100, right? Like Elite's like 85, or is it 90? How much is the Elite plan these days?
I think it's 85 after
85.
auto pay.
Okay,
Yeah.
85. And then Magenta MAX is 80?
80, yeah.
Okay. So if Verizon comes in at even 90 plus taxes, they're always going to charge taxes and fees. It's going to push them closer to $100 in most places. Some people are willing to pay that, as long as the plan gives them what they're paying for. This is a discussion I've had with many people. A good business always gives the customer what they pay for. A good business transaction is when the customer knows what they signed up for. They are willing to pay for it, no questions asked, but they insist that they get what they paid for. That is a good business transaction. Even if the company is expensive, it doesn't matter. If the customer knows that going into it, they're ready and they're willing to pay. They've made that agreement, right? Internally, they have processed that. I know Verizon's expensive. I know what the cost is. It's good. I want it. I'll pay it. And the same thing with AT&T or T-Mobile with Magenta MAX. People know what they're getting themselves into with these companies with their prices. So they're willing to pay it because they know it up front.
Hello.
Hi, Yasmin. We got Yasmin here. She's visiting.
Okay.
What's up, Yasmin? You want to say hi to the people?
Good night.
Oh, you're saying good night? Okay.
I'm gonna go to sleep.
Okay. Good night. I see you in the morning. Maybe? Okay. Good night, Angel. Go ahead.
I'm sleeping on your arm.
No, you're not sleeping on my arm. Go ahead, Yasmin. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for coming and saying good night. Love you. Close the door so there's not a lot of noise.
I'm not gonna. No, there's gotta not be any noise.
I know. Okay. Thank you, Paul.
We got Carlos in live. What up, Carlos?
Oh, what's up, Los? Thanks, Yasmin. Okay.
I mean, when it comes to premium plans, I think this community serves, as a good representative of the people who are willing to pay for that high priority access. We just need companies to offer it, Long term, those are the people who are going to be the most vocal about the service with said company and are going to make the biggest stink. They're going to be the most prominent out of all the consumers. Like a lot of the people, those old time folks that are on the carrier they've been with for 10, 15, almost 20 years at this point, they're going to stay where they're at unless they get some crazy offer. But those people who are looking for that power user experience are the ones, porting in, porting out after 6, 9, 12 months, always looking for the best option. And I think carriers right now have an opportunity to use their added capacity for those consumers that are going to put a good image out.
You know what, Mikhail? I think you're onto something there. I think you're pretty much right on point. AT&T, then T-Mobile, in terms of the current plans for the power users. Los Mobile is a great option. I totally agree. I think Los Mobile actually has the best plan on the market. It's just a lesser known commodity, so for anybody from the SMT Nation, I can vouch for it. Los Mobile is an incredible, version of access. It's great priority, great features, tons of hotspot data, unlimited, high speed. It's great. It's really nice. So yeah, if you're going single line, you're looking to have the highest access, highest priority single line. Los Mobile is definitely the best way to go, and you could choose your carrier, which is awesome. Philip says, I know we've been talking about it for years, but as a rural consumer, who do you think will dominate rural coverage in 2022? I mean, I still got Verizon being right there. I still have them. I mean, those towers don't get shut down, right? They're still up, and they'll add some towers. They still build and construct new sites. AT&T is obviously motivated and obligated contractually to do so with, the FirstNet deal, the contract. So I put them right there with Verizon. In fact, in some ways, I think with FirstNet, I give AT&T the edge. You know, the conversations we're having in like 1 or 2 years is, did FirstNet put AT&T over the top over Verizon as the coverage king? Where you at with that, EM?
Honestly, I give it to AT&T. I see them taking advantage of this opportunity as Verizon builds out millimeter wave, and they're focusing on those top 46 PAs with C-band. I see them taking advantage of this stopgap for rural customers to build out their network, and I think that they're going to eventually offer the best service for those people.
Carlos just made it by. We're glad to have you, man. Thanks for coming through, bud. Texas Marine chimes in. I was Sprint ride or die because of value and Nextel. I'm Death Star because of reliability and straightforward screwing me over upfront respect. So it looks like he's gone through it with them. Oh, man. Tyler just stopped by. Okay. Go ahead, EM.
I miss the old Sprint days, man. That value that they offered was I still think was industry leading, especially with their old plans. But
all right, let's go ahead and finalize our votes for tonight's poll number 1. If you are in the live chat, go ahead, and if you want to cast your vote now, I'm going to go ahead and close that in about 30 seconds. Which carrier will have the best power user data plan in 2022? Your choice between AT&T, Dish, T-Mobile, and Verizon. Go ahead and get your vote in as we close out the poll here. Just a few seconds. Tyler, appreciate you coming by. He said, spotted a C-band site here in semi-rural Davis, California. Thrilled to see it. Very rapid deployment. I've been seeing and hearing a lot of C-band going up for Verizon in a lot of suburban, urban, rural places too. Also in Texas for a lot of Verizon and AT&T. Right, we're seeing a lot of that feedback. So that's good to see. I've predicted that they need to be at somewhere between like 5,000 or so sites at launch in order for it to be really noticeable. I think they got to hit like the 10,000 mark, 10,000 sites. That probably puts them close to like, what would you say, about 100 million pops maybe, if they did about 10,000 sites?
I'd say that's a good estimate, yeah.
Yeah. So then it becomes meaningful because it's more expansive, more sites have it. People will feel that upgrade,
I hate to say it, but it has a lot to do with that damn icon. The more people that see it, the more people talk about it. And if they focus on those areas where people are in and out, that's where you're going to see the conversation start about the service.
Big shout out to MS. Thanks for the super chat. Los Mobile for the win. Yasmin, #1 stream crasher. Totally agree. She definitely is. And so is Los Mobile. Absolutely. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and close out and end the poll. And we shall see what the results are. Honestly, I expected to see a lot of AT&T and T-Mobile. And it looks like that's what we got. EM Tech. What do you think about these numbers? We have AT&T came in with 41% of the vote. T-Mobile at 35% of the vote. Verizon 18%. Dish, surprisingly, 5% of the vote. I did not expect them to have 5%.
I didn't think anybody was going to vote for Dish. But 40, I mean, with the majority of people saying AT&T, I agree. I think AT&T will continue to offer a fantastic high, power user plan. And I think with C-band, it's only going to get better. So I'm hoping they up their hotspot allotment for the folks who need it. And I hope they continue to offer the great no deprio data that they've been offering. Mm-hmm. I'm a little shocked to see Verizon down at 18% though. I figured the hype was going to be there.
I was expecting about 20%. I thought it was going to be like 50% AT&T, 45-50%. I had T-Mobile around 30%. Really, I mean, if it would have been the other way around with T-Mobile getting the majority, I think that would have been expected too. Like, why the hell not? Magenta MAX offers a lot. That is, and it's kind of it's kind of the first of its kind. I know AT&T Elite was always that way, but they didn't advertise it. So, we could argue till the cows come home, maybe that the Elite came before the Max, but truth be told, you pick either one of those, you're getting the cream of the crop when it comes to priority access, feature-rich plans. So, I'm no surprise there. They're the top two. Now, the Verizon one, I was kind of expecting about 20%. I figured 1 in every 5 people were anticipating a revamped plan of some sort. Like Verizon could keep all their plans the same and just add the power plan. Like they could literally call it Verizon Power, right? It would be designed for the power user. 50 gigs of tethering and hotspot at full speed, no deprio on device data, QCI 7, the whole shebang, right? And no 3G and none of that nonsense. No deprio. That puts it right up there with the Elite on AT&T and right up there with the Magenta MAX with T-Mobile. And then you have yourself a real competitive marketplace for the power user.
I kind of want to turn the question on its head, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
So, just from your opinion, if AT&T wants to maintain the power user lead in 2022, do you think they need to change up Elite at all, add any more features, or do you think it's good where it's at?
Well, I think it kind of depends. Like right now, AT&T gives you complete unthrottled data experience on video. And I think Magenta MAX is the same way. Correct me if I'm wrong, EM.
No, I think you're right.
Okay. Verizon, even if you pay for the add-on, still caps you at like 40 megabits per second. So if you go to fast.com and speed test on any Verizon plan, even with the add-on, you're getting 40 megabits per second. Unless you're on ultra wideband. And then in that instance, your sky's the limit. All right. So that's got to change. If you're going to be paying upwards of $90, $95, $100 for a Verizon power plan or whatever it's going to be called, that's got to be just like Magenta MAX. That's got to be just like Elite. And then, see, so my point is AT&T has nowhere to go. The only thing they could say is, well, we'll give you more hotspot data. Right? Like, what are they giving now? 40, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do they go 50? Do they go 60? Do they double it and say, we'll give you 80? Do they go super bold and say, we'll give you 100? I mean, at 100 gigs in a month for tethering and hotspot, if you're only using it as a true hotspot, not as a home broadband connection, you'd never run out of tethering and hotspot. There's no way. I mean, you could hotspot your laptop for work, your personal tablet, another device, like there's no version of you using 100 gigs if you're using it as in just like a regular hotspot, not as a home broadband connection, like not a modem.
That's true. I think our focus on, or I guess the company's focus on hotspot data is, it seems almost, I don't want to say pointless, but it seems like a feature that most people don't take advantage of to its fullest extent. And I could be wrong. There's definitely people out there that need it. I've never used more than 10 gigs a month tethering, but I
think maybe I've used 15. That's been my craziest month. 13 or 15 if I remember correctly.
But yeah, so I think it's just a number game. Who's going to have the largest number on the plan sheet, who's going to, advertise the most about all these features. Like realistically, having the best on-device experience has always been my priority, which is why I have my personal service on AT&T. No matter what, you're getting a fantastic experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I just, you're just going to create the plan to have all this hotspot just to one up the other company or match them. But is Verizon going to say, we're still the best network, now we're matching with the best plan? Do they need to match AT&T and Magenta MAX, or do they need to surpass them with because they're the ones that are missing the plan? So where I'm going with this is does this become a pissing contest where it becomes a battle over hotspot? Because you can't battle over deprio if they're both no deprio or all of them are no deprio, right? You can't battle over video playback if you lift any restriction or speed restriction. So what are you going to battle over? Hotspot and tethering. That's the only thing. What can you battle over? Latency? Can you do that on a 4G LTE network core? You can't.
Definitely not. It all comes down to marketing, and that's what it's going to be. We're going to see ads and commercials and stuff about how our plan is the best plan because of our hotspot, and then it's going to be, oh well, but we give you 80 million streaming services, or it's going to be a pissing contest with 2022, and I'm for the competition, because at the end of the day, we still benefit as consumers no matter how much they try and push these extra features.
I'm going to go ahead and create the new poll.
Oh boy.
And this one's structured a little bit differently, but we are going to keep the carrier names the same. All right, so we'll keep the same format in a way. And the question is, which carrier will have the best network experience in 2022?
Manny brings up a good point. Says at this point, the only thing they can do is to lower prices to be the most competitive. I think that's very true. When you look at it from a single line perspective, you're paying up the wazoo for premium access on any sort of standard consumer plan. I'd say if a carrier wanted to make big waves in the industry, they would offer some form of single line pricing that actually makes sense for a single consumer.
All right, so the newest poll is just posted. If you guys want to go ahead and vote in the poll, it should be there in the live chat. I think. There it goes. Okay. The poll is up. Which carrier will have the best network experience in 2022? Your choices, the same as the last poll. AT&T, Dish, T-Mobile, and Verizon Wireless. You guys go ahead and make your votes happen. Put in for those votes, and then me and Ethan will discuss this. All right, so in terms of 2022, I think what we're looking at are a couple of landmark situations that could occur. All right, so number one, carriers, I think all of them are launching a 5G network core in 2022. So this is going to be our first glimpse into a standalone 5G network that doesn't rely on LTE as a backbone and will be true standalone 5G, a real standalone 5G, as RFK Tech would say, not this fake 5G stuff, right? The NSA, which is anchored and relies upon LTE technology. So
Skunk
what
Mobile.
that right. So what does that look like? What is that going to perform like? What does it mean to the end user? What does it mean for the traditional mobile customer? What does it mean to business and enterprise on 5G? What does it mean for brand new use cases in 5G? AR, VR, virtual training, IoT, connected machines, artificial intelligence, all these things that we're going to be doing with new business use cases like healthcare industries, manufacturing, automation, all these different things, connected cars and vehicles. We know all this is coming. You can't do that without a 5G network core that is standalone. All right, so that's going to be happening. We're expecting AT&T to launch theirs towards the end of the year. That's the vibe we're getting. Dish is a standalone 5G network. It's greenfield, so that's happening. We know that Vegas is in beta testing right now, so we're expecting some news on them in just some weeks. T-Mobile is in the testing stages of their standalone 5G. They have launched it. It's kind of sort of commercial in a way, right? What do we've seen it standalone in over N41. We've seen it over N71, right? So they appear to be the furthest along within terms of just launching it, right? So that's like I don't know. I think they're the furthest ahead relative to the consumer. And then for Verizon, the expectation is that in some point in 2022, we'll be seeing their network core as well. They haven't really talked about it so much, but when asked about it, they say we are launching it this year. Right. So yeah. And Pete brings up secured network slices. Totally agree. And unique and very specified, user experiences. You're going to get guaranteed service to a certain standard, and that's pretty daggone impressive. So who do I think has the best network experience in 2022? Well, I think the 5G standalone networking is a big piece of this. If it's good when it launches. Otherwise, we're still talking about an LTE-based experience, right? EM Tech?
Yeah, I agree. Um, what I would like to see from a carrier is like true voice over NR support. I know that T-Mobile has been blabbing about voice over NR, but I think that's kind of the big step that one provider has to take, whether it's Dish or T-Mobile. Realistically, like they're going to be one of the two to get it done first, but I want to see it done right, and I want to see it maintain quality, unlike we've seen voice over LTE kind of taper off and fall behind the curve over the last couple years.
There just hasn't been much for voice over LTE to improve, right? It's like, where the hell does it go? I mean, it's either good or it's not, right? So here's my experience with voice over LTE. Currently, in the current iteration, I think Verizon has the best voice over LTE quality. And you make calls on Verizon, it is crystal clear, HD, sounds terrific. Verizon to Verizon is very good. Verizon to AT&T is good. Verizon to T-Mobile is good. Good call quality, the sound, all of that, the richness, it's great. AT&T has its moments where it's kind of questionable. I don't know if it's a site-to-site basis. I don't know if it's a device-to-device basis. Like if you're on an iPhone, it's good. If you're on an Android, it's sus. I don't know if it's something like that, but I've just noticed that there are times where my AT&T voice service isn't the best, right? It's very average. Whereas most of my calls through Verizon sound incredible, rich, high fidelity, very good. T-Mobile calling has been probably my most problematic. Maybe it's because of the quality of service around my home where I'm making the calls, but even when I'm out and about in mobility use case, it's really not that great. Calls that originate that are truly voice over LTE, when you're going from T-Mobile to Verizon, they can sound kind of terrible, right? Like I've had these conversations with my brother who has a T-Mobile line. When he calls me T-Mobile to Verizon, I don't like the sound. If I call him back, it sounds better. So there's some kind of I don't know if it's a different codec that they're using, a different voice over LTE technology, vendor software, something. It's just not as good. So I think the voice over NR piece is more important to the carriers that didn't do well with voice over LTE. Like if Verizon decided to keep the same call quality for voice over LTE as voice over NR, I'd say that I wouldn't even notice. Like who cares, right? Like the call sounds fine. But like I said, I think T-Mobile can improve their calling. I just don't know if it's more about the voice over LTE technology, if it's more about the calling area that I'm in. So it's hard for me to make that judgment.
I think it has a lot to do with your market in particular. I wish you could come up here and test out T-Mobile's network, because as much as I think they're still behind as an overall network, the deployment here is phenomenal. Like I don't have calling issues with any provider for the most part, but T-Mobile's got some work to do. But I think they're heading in the right direction come 2022. I'm very excited to see where they're going to go with it.
To address Pete, you know what, Pete? Now that I think about all the calls we've had, we've never had a bad call, actually. Can't say that we ever did. So yeah, T-Mobile's been good in that instance. Yeah, you know what, Nikki? I've noticed that too. In the root metrics, T-Mobile's calling performance in certain markets does struggle, but it's not all of them. It's selected. It's, some markets. Again, I think that's more about the networking in that particular market as opposed to, say, for example, the technology. I think the bigger issue are those tower handoffs with video calling. That continues to kind of plague them here. Live streaming's troubling on the mobility side of things. Like I said, with the tower handoffs, but that's a discussion for another day. All right, let's go ahead and kind of look at some of these other angles. So calling and voice over NR is one thing. There's other parts of the network, obviously. So we're asking the question, live chat. We got the poll up, 69 votes thus far. That poll will close here in about a minute or two. Which carrier will have the best network experience in 2022? I'm guessing EM Tech. I'm guessing most people are looking at this from a data network experience, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So lack of congestion, lots of capacity, video playback, high quality, high res, no buffer, files send in freely, nice and quick, zippy, video calling holds up well, those sorts of things, right?
Right. And I think the biggest quarrel that people have with their provider is congestion. And if you want to have a perceived experience of quality, alleviating congestion is the easiest way to do it. Even if it's minuscule, it's going to make a difference.
Oh, Pete's saying that the T-Mobile calling issue could be the band. Maybe it's because I was on band 12.
Band 12 at 5, what is it, 5 megahertz?
Oh, it's so bad, dude. The only thing worse than the 5 megahertz band 12 on T-Mobile is probably the 3 megahertz on band 26 on Sprint. That's really the only thing worse. And then I don't even know if it's worse. They're about the same. It's trash, dog. It's horrible.
They still got that band 26 live up there?
Yeah, dude. And the reason it's 3 megahertz is because they're using 2 megahertz for guard. Apparently, there's interference from Canada. It's unbelievable, dog. Like, I'm 58 miles from Canada. I'm serious.
What does Pete always say? That signal's skipping over the lake?
Yeah, it skips like a rock, bro, just skimming off the surface. Oh my goodness. Yeah, band 12 is terrible. It's the worst.
I mean, It looks like the chat's voting where I kind of thought most people were going to sit.
All right, so we'll go ahead and close that out here in 30 seconds. Make sure you vote in tonight's poll number 2. Big shout out to Alexis. Welcome to the show, my friend. Hello from Dallas. Hello from the CLE. Yeah, that RF propagation is a problem, Doug. We're not liking the Canadian propagations. All right. Alexis voted Dish. Most of the voices are ignoring them. They may sneak in. Oh my goodness. I love it, man. I love the optimism. See, everybody, like I said in Friday's show, everybody just wants to drop buckets of dookie all over Dish all day long. I'm not going to do that. They got enough people being a naysayer, being negative Nancy's, dropping the buckets of dookie all over him, I don't need to be another one. We already got a million of them, and I don't blame people for having doubts. I can't blame them. What's the track record? It's spectrum squatting, right?
Yeah, we got to root for the little guy. Everyone was fine. Everyone was fine doing it when it was T-Mobile, but it seems like now that T-Mobile's, competing, they flipped the script. They got what they wanted, and they're gonna crap on the little guy.
You know what? RFK brings up a good statement here. He believes Dish to be a regional carrier for 3 years. I mean, does that mean they are the new Sprint?
Wouldn't be a bad thing if they were, though. Like, we all want them to go nationwide, but realistically, if they're going to build out a quality network, I would rather have them, build out a good network in less places and just have a roaming partner.
Let me take this poll Let's give it one more minute for people to vote. But let me take this poll and dissect it a little bit. AT&T has a proven pedigree in a lot of markets to do some quality networking. Do you agree or disagree, Ian?
I agree.
Okay. Dish has an opportunity that they can seize because they are starting with a greenfield 5G network. Do you agree or disagree?
I agree.
In principle.
In principle, in practice, I have my reservations, but it does give them an advantage.
Okay. T-Mobile has an advantage because they have the most national spectrum on air, sub 6 gigahertz right now. So that's their advantage, right?
Correct.
And then Verizon has the pedigree. They have the network excellence awards dating back to like the last 2 decades. In the calling era, they won. In the 3G era, they won. In LTE, they won. They dominated. While AT&T was trying to buy up all of those media assets, Verizon was building out their network. While T-Mobile was trying to merge with AT&T and merge with Sprint for 6, 7, 8 years, try to get bought out by Comcast and all these other cable operators, Verizon was building out LTE, and they went national with band 13 and the 700 megahertz, and they did it, so I think people, and I'm going to go ahead and end the poll now, 84 votes. Let's see how things turned out. I think Verizon came in number one, the highest percentage. 53% of you said Verizon will have the best network experience in 2022. Here is why I can't blame people for saying this. Verizon has the pedigree. They have been winning Root Awards for excellence and reliability for a long time. The only thing they've been missing has been spectrum. They have the coverage. They have the pedigree, the know-how, the engineering, the spending. They just don't have this. They didn't have the spectrum. Now they have it with C-band. So that fulfills the need, right? AT&T got a 25% vote. And I think that's because of the whole FirstNet improved coverage, newfound capacity with all these carriers. Band 30 is going up at a good pace. Band 14 at a great pace. That's a lot of capacity added to the network. And then T-Mobile at 17%. I'm surprised they weren't a little bit higher. That's the 5G leader, right?
Yeah, but C-band. That's all everyone's talking about right now. And I think this is where people are going to finally see what both AT&T and Verizon are capable of. They've been basically left with an Achilles heel for the last 18 months, waiting for the spectrum to go live. So I can understand why people's perception of a good experience has changed.
So here's where I'm at. Obviously, C-band is huge. That's going to impact the most number of people in the most places. But I am still convinced that there is so much headroom. There is such an incredible ceiling for millimeter wave that if Verizon continues to build 15, 16, 17,000 sites annually, if they keep that pace, they will be years ahead of AT&T and T-Mobile in terms of capacity and unique experiences and just raw power on a network. Like, they will keep their mid-band channels clear in the most difficult and challenging of settings. Tens of thousands of people, no problem. Stadiums and arenas, no problem. Even just urban locations where you're running 5G home and 5G business, and then you're offloading mobile data traffic simultaneously. That's what Verizon is dedicated to doing, right? And it's expensive, and they found a way to make it a little bit cheaper. They got the Fiber One project. They've got the node construction down to like 15 grand a site. It's freaking nuts. Now all they need is a couple of things in terms of innovation in technology and hardware. I'm talking repeaters, the echoes and the pivots from Pivotal commware, stuff like that. Those passive repeaters are going to be a game changer for them, right? They can snatch the signal from the outside, send it to the inside. Indoor DAS systems and indoor nodes are going to be big too. I think it's going to be huge. Let me give a shout out to Vivian here. At Millimeter Wave, I wish people understood that it's less about raw speed and more about capacity. new use cases. You can't do VR on sub 6 because it simply doesn't have the bandwidth. Yeah, okay, so Vivian, the thing there is what do we know about the ceiling for mid-band a couple years from now when the carriers have like 200 megahertz of 6 gigahertz, or they've got C-band, they've got like 300 megahertz of mid-band. Like, we don't know how that's going to play out when they start aggregating carriers in the mid-band. So maybe there's more potential for the 5G use cases once more of the mid-band is made available. And plus, we also have like 12 gigahertz. I don't know if that's considered millimeter wave. I think it is. Is it 12
Yeah.
gigahertz? It is considered millimeter wave. Okay. I don't know. I guess it depends how much bandwidth is there, but I agree with you for the most part. I think millimeter wave is the move. I think it's the future of 5G. I think it's the ultimate capacity layer. I don't think mid-band will ever have the ceiling that millimeter wave does when it comes to capacity and the unique 5G use cases. So generally speaking, I think you're right, Vivian. I think you are. I think the only thing that has to be overcome is the full-on scale tower grid that you're going to need, or the small cell grid that you will need, right? They're just literally going to have to put millimeter wave nodes, every other block, right? Every 1,000 to 2,000 feet, there needs to be one. Or if your repeaters are good, maybe every 2,500 feet, right? They can just push to each other, daisy chain in a way, right? That could work.
I think one of the big things with any sort of AR VR experience is latency. And what we see from millimeter wave, at least on the Verizon side of things, is some sub 10 milliseconds, sometimes sub 5 millisecond latency on these millimeter wave channels. C-band has the potential to provide something similar. Like with a good N41 connection, I've seen sub 10 millisecond ping times, and that's where those live experiences are going to make a difference. But we won't really see that until we go full standalone.
Right. Big shout out to Magic Tech Review. Thanks, John. Appreciate that super sticker, man. And thanks for coming by and hanging out for a bit. I don't know. I'm not sure if you're still here or not, but it's good to have you. Appreciate it very much. Chimed in. He said 10 days to C-band. He's counting days, man.
Can only wait. I'm super excited to see where this takes.
All right, we got a request for a new poll, man. All right.
Question 110. Ooh.
Okay, Nikki, how do you want to structure the poll? Do you want to do, how much spectrum did each carrier get? I mean, I need to know how to structure this thing. What's up, Teddy? Oh, who thinks won most and who backed out? Okay, so that's two different polls. All right, we'll do that first, Ethan. I'm going to go ahead and structure it so that it's who do you think won the most spectrum?
Oh boy.
And
I actually have,
by all means, go ahead and do your speculation. Talk through it, man.
I have no inclination on who would have acquired the most from that auction, because what was it? It was 100 megahertz with a limit of 40 per provider, correct?
That is correct.
Oh man, I feel like if I had to make an educated guess, I'd say AT&T went pretty hard on it, and T-Mobile is gonna participate in selective areas where they don't have contiguous N41. But I think AT&T bought the most, T-Mobile filled in the gaps, and then probably Verizon and maybe Dish on the low end. But I don't see Verizon going super hard on it because they won C-band and they spent the money already. But I guess we'll find out if Pete, if you know, when's those results supposed to go live, or when are we supposed to see public comment on it?
We are expecting something mid-January, maybe second week of January, something like that.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it's sooner rather than later. That's for sure. All right, poll just went up, I believe. You guys should be able to see it. It's in the live chat. We asked the question, and it should be up right now. Okay. Who walked away with the most spectrum in auction 110? It was 100 megahertz of C-band in the 3.45 frequency. All right, so the most a carrier can get is 40 megahertz in any given PEA. PEAs represent markets. So my PA, for example, is basically Cuyahoga County and its outskirts, 4 million pops. All right, how many millions of pops in your PEA, EM Tech?
I honestly have no idea.
I
mean, it's
think
a big,
LA is like, I'm not even joking, dude. It's like something absurd. It's like 50 million pops, LA County. It is crazy. Huge. I think Vegas is like 3 million pops or 2 million pops. I think New York is like 14 million or something. It's some crazy number. Like some of these PAs are massive, and those are the PAs that pull the most money in these auctions.
sorry, I'm just trying to see what.
Oh,
what my
definitely,
cities-
John. We'll definitely send you a link and have you on the show, man. Absolutely. I usually do a show on Fridays. I could definitely get you that one. That's the big one. A lot of people come through and we can kind of introduce you to the SMT Nation. Absolutely. I literally have to use Speedify to keep online right now because T-Mobile crashes a lot in my market. What in the world has happened there, dog? Hey, Kamikaze Kid, thanks for the super chat, man. He threw a super sticker at us. What has he got? The fox with the paintbrush? Thanks, man. Appreciate that super sticker. Very nice of you. Solar millimeter wave repeaters are going to be revolutionary. Imagine how easy it would be to stick millimeter wave repeaters on every single block if they don't require any cables at all, not even power. Yeah, that's kind of nice. I think the problem becomes in a city that it's not very sunny. Hopefully, just enough solar power to get to them, throughout points of the day. I know the power is the issue, getting metered and stuff like that. So, yep. All right, so let's see here. We got you guys voting here in the live chat. You guys can cast your votes for the most recent poll here. All right, so who walked away with the most spectrum in auction 110? All right, go ahead and put in your votes. Cast them. SMT Nation. I'd be absolutely shocked if AT&T weren't the winner. They're now the most mid-band starved carrier, and they have lots of financial weight to throw around.
That's a good point.
I mean, the process is there. I think Viv's right. So AT&T got 80 to 100 megahertz of C-band in auction 107. Verizon went 160 on average. That's a lot of difference. And T-Mobile's got a ton of 2.5, right? And they even got some C-band in some places. So they're way out in front in terms of sub 6 gigahertz spectrum. I tend to agree. I personally think that AT&T, I would be shocked, like floored, if they didn't get 40 megahertz national. Like, hands down, I think that is the most likely outcome. AT&T went 40 megahertz national. I don't see any other version of outcome for AT&T. Where are you at with that? Yeah.
Now I'm running the same train. I think AT&T took this as an opportunity to sort of broaden their spectrum depth, and I know that they have a lot of random licenses with supplemental downlink and on band 30 and band 29, but if you can add to that portfolio, it's going to make a difference, especially with their gaps where they didn't get as much C-band as Verizon.
You know what, Ethan? Kaufman, thank you for the super chat. He chimed in. He said, will C-band help stop Verizon deprio after 50 gigs? Will Verizon get a Magenta-like plan soon? Okay, so I think I know what Ethan's saying. And thank you for the super chat. He's basically saying, are we going to see a power user plan? Ethan, I'm assuming you just got into the live chat. You just came into the live stream. But we actually addressed this at the beginning of the live stream. So hashtag replay crew. Check that out later. We discussed it. But to kind of answer your question, I do. I think they are going to introduce a power plan, a power user plan, in which it will be very much like Magenta MAX and very much like AT&T Elite. In fact, I think it will match, possibly exceed expectations in some respects. So yes, once the C-band scales, I think once they get to like, I don't know, 1/5 to 1/4 of their national tower sites upgraded, I think they go ahead and pull that trigger. I would say at the latest, the spring 2022, we see a new power user plan from Verizon. May would be like the latest. We shall see. Tyler, the term POPs is kind of population. It's points of presence. And but yeah, it's population related, population density related too. Do you think that Verizon will ever have truly unlimited plans? They do. They're just on the business side right now, Kamikaze Kid. You can get one on Los Mobile, or you can get a business line. Yep. But in terms of consumer, that's gonna. We believe it's coming. The fact that they put it on the business side already gives me some confidence in that. What if I tell you from my sources inside, Red and DoD told me Verizon had 30 before last round one? What? Okay, so I think what he's saying is that in the Spectrum auction 110, Verizon got 30 national. Wow. That would be impressive because they just spent like some astronomical number. Was it $41 billion on Spectrum auction 107?
I think it was close to 50.
40, okay.
Something like it's some crazy amount,
Okay, so like if let's just guess AT&T gets 40 megahertz national. You think that's about $9 billion?
Somewhere in there. I really haven't kept up with the 110 auction because it hasn't been as publicized, so I don't remember what the general consensus was before. I just know that at the beginning it didn't seem like most people were most companies weren't super interested in bidding super high.
No. Now, AT&T spent $27 billion on C-band. This would probably put them, at least $35 billion in total on the C-band auctions thus far. This probably, I think Verizon's going to spend about $3 or $4 billion, maybe $5 billion. I think Verizon's more like, my prediction was that they were going to pick their spots. Certain markets, they were going to do like 20 to 30 megahertz. I don't see them going 40 national. No way. There's just too much debt. You got to pay for the the last frickin' auction, So got to think about that too. Yeah, there's a list on the FCC website, Christopher. You could see which A block markets are there. Those are the first ones to get C-band. By the way, Washington, D.C. is not getting A block C-band. Atlanta, Georgia, not getting A block C-band. Honolulu, Hawaii does not have C-band. Do you believe this, EM Tech?
I'm assuming it's got to have something to do with the DoD.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Most definitely.
That gives T-Mobile an opportunity. They bolster their network in those areas where, you're not going to see a C-band rollout. Where are you going to go for those crazy, capacity gains? It's going to be T-Mobile.
All right. Now, in terms of the other carriers, so I got Verizon picking their spots 20 to 30 megahertz at a time. I got AT&T 40 megahertz national. I got T-Mobile 20 megahertz in some spots. I can't see them going 30 and 40 anywhere. Unless it's like some extreme situation where they have like little to no 2.5. And they don't feel strongly about getting it in Spectrum Auction 108. So, I got Dish going about 20 megahertz national. I think that makes sense. I don't know who backed out. I guess they said that a carrier backed out. Who could have backed out? Everybody needed Spectrum. I guess you could make the argument that Verizon would have, and I guess you could make the argument that T-Mobile could have. But anybody could use this. It's mid-band capacity and the Goldilocks frequencies, right? I'm gonna go out on a limb. I think Verizon played ball. I think AT&T was gung-ho. I think Dish finally got some national mid-band frequency with capacity. I think it was T-Mobile that backed out, and they're going to save all their bullets for Spectrum Auction 108 for the rest of the EBS BRS. Where are you at with this, EM?
I feel like that's a good prediction. Do we know if US Cellular was participating at all? Because they came away from C-band with a decent chunk of licenses in their markets.
Yeah, they could be involved. Maybe they got in their markets and walked away. You know, they weren't going to hang around and spend a bunch of billions. They weren't going to leverage, Spectrum. So, yeah, go ahead and get your votes in. We got 75 votes as of right now. The poll's been up. We do have one more poll to cover, and then we're going to wrap up the show. We're already 1 hour in. Damn, dog. Time's flying, man.
Jeez. It didn't even feel like an hour.
I know. Viv says Verizon already never deprio C-band because it's classified as ultra-wideband, which is always truly unlimited. They only deprio if you aren't connected to the C-band or the millimeter wave. I believe that is indeed how it is structured, and I think you are correct about that, Vivian. We'll see if they keep those terms the same way. I know that's how they felt about the millimeter wave. It's a safe assumption, I think, about C-band. My only concern is that they change the terms once the C-band goes live. That is my only fear. Because, I mean, is it out of the realm of possibility for Verizon to change their terms and policies on their network? I think it's possible. They could, right? Couldn't they back out, and change the way that they structure the terminology in the network access? Yeah,
they could. I know they've kind of messed around with the verbiage and some of the terms with ultra wideband and the data access that you're able to get on those services. Like, I correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that even if you're connected to ultra wideband, if you use 50 gigs, that counts towards your deprioritization cap for the other parts of the network. So, like, if I run to my nearest millimeter wave node and download a movie or 2 movies and I use up 25, 30 gigs, that's going to count towards my 50 of prio when I'm not connected to millimeter wave. Which, if they wanted to be a game changer, they would remove that restriction completely.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to be flexing capacity and then you're going to neuter the experience, come on, man.
They did that with the hotspot,
Yeah.
Used to be able to run up however much you wanted on millimeter wave, and then after you hit 50, you get put down to 3 megs, which I still think is something that needs to change here.
Yeah, that is absolutely insane. That is just nuts. I couldn't believe they actually structured the terms like that, and that was a real thing. I mean, that was borderline depressing, actually. When I saw that, I'm like, what in the world? I mean, EM, those channels are deep. I mean, I don't know what you're seeing in your market, but here in the CLE, we've got 800 megahertz live on N260.
We got the same here. They're using N261.
Oh, so you're on the 28 gigahertz band?
Yeah.
Okay, we're using the 39 gigahertz band. The network grid is pretty tight. They basically put wherever there's nodes, they're doing a site every block.
That's what we're seeing here. But the way I look at it is that arbitrary cap on millimeter wave, it sucks, and I think that you should have a higher allotment. But it's to avoid those minor few people, the abusers of the network, from turning that mobility line into some sort of home internet solution.
But they do have a home internet solution, but they throttle the speed, don't they?
I don't think so. I mean, you've got the 5G home right at the bakery.
Yeah, but I think the restriction is the Wi-Fi gear. Okay. because the Ethernet's plenty fast. I get over a gigabit speed on the Ethernet. But when you're doing like like take for example, like it's got Wi-Fi 6 built in, the 5G home gateway. So you're doing like 6, 7, 800 megabits, no problem. But you're not going to get, 3 gigabits, 4 gigabits per second like you do on the mobility side. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. I'm surprised though. I would almost prefer if they would prioritize those data streams rather than mobility.
Well, what
I
they
would
want to do
love.
is they want to guarantee 300, 500, 800 megabits on home. And that's it. Right? They're not going to cap you. They're not going to throttle you after a certain usage. But they are going to probably tell people, hey, we're going to guarantee you 300. They're going to tier it. That's what they're going to do.
And I think that's a good way to stay competitive. But man, I would love to see that 4 gig,
Sure.
ookla
Yeah.
speed test on my home internet rather than on my phone. But
Totally agree.
Totally.
I mean, what your phone doesn't need 4 gigs. Your home internet, you could argue, could use a gig. Right?
No, I agree. I mean, I'm over here struggling with coax now since I moved,
Yeah,
but
right.
like as a fiber user firsthand, that gigabit downlink makes a huge difference.
Gigabit down, gigabit up, dude. It's game changer. It really is.
I would like to see Verizon or T-Mobile offer some sort of home internet experience that not only guarantees downlink capacity but also uplink capacity. That's where I think we'll see a big change.
We are going to need network slicing. We are going to need a 5G standalone core. No other way to do it without it. And we're going to have to see a substantial millimeter wave build. You cannot do that sort of thing over midband. Can't do it. Can't do it over NSA. Can't do it with LTE. And you can't do it over, all this tomfoolery. It's got to be an SA network, 5G network core with tons of bandwidth and millimeter wave. Big shout out to Mark. Appreciate the super chat, bud. Thanks so much. Appreciate all your generosity and happy holidays to you. And thanks for all that you do to support us here.
So Sneed, you're telling me that 5G ultra capacity isn't the end game solution? That it's not the bee's knees?
It's great. It's great for mobility. It's fantastic for mobility. But I have concerns about the current rendition of 5G you see when you start talking about home internet. I mean, don't you think that's a valid concern? Home internet use over NSA 5G, 100 megahertz channels. Don't you think there's valid concerns?
No, I agree. It's funny to see all this hype around it when in reality it's like long term it's not going to make sense, and they're not going to keep up if they don't start deploying millimeter wave. They have the licenses, they have the engineers, they just need to do it. Spend the money.
Big shout out to Chaim. Thanks for your support, man. I appreciate it. Chaim been riding and dying for with the SMT Nation for a while, man. Thanks for all that you do, bro, and thanks for the support. The super chat. We know the day is coming. C-band will launch and nothing will happen to the altimeters. No flight delays. It was a myth. So just give it a few days, and N77 will go full power very soon. My prediction. I don't know if it'll play out exactly as you described, Chaim, but I think generally speaking, you are correct. I agree. C-band will go live January 5th. I don't think there's going to be any issues with the altimeters. The FAA will look stupid. The pilots and the aviation industry will continue to keep on ticking as they have been. I don't think it's going to be an issue whatsoever. And big shout out to Chaim. Thanks again for your super chat. And big shout out to RFK Tech. If you guys have not subscribed to his channel, check him out. He is also a friend of the show, a supporter of the SMT, one of my moderators. He's a creator as well. He hosts his own, live streams and podcasts discussing 5G network technologies, carriers, their network performance and such. Pretty much, a lot of stuff that we cover here on this channel. RFK also gets pretty technical, which is great. You can learn about the technologies and kind of the detail, and you get an alternative, perspective on cellular networking. And he's got very, very stringent standards on excellence. So very much, a powerful voice in wireless networking. Barry chimes in, says no wireless network operator can afford to provide unlimited, unconditional data usage. It leads to issues with the network. I don't see anything wrong with that comment, Barry. I think you're right. There's a reason why, it's a limited, it's a limited asset. It's not unlimited. And I think this is why they structure their quote unquote unlimited plans with restrictions. To keep it somewhat unlimited, they have to neuter certain experiences and prevent abuse. If you've got a dedicated fiber line, it's a different story. A private network, it's a different story. So I agree. And we've seen network abuse happen, and we've seen the problems that it has caused.
It's all within reason.
Sure. Anyone know whether millimeter wave standalone will be a thing anytime soon? I've only seen it in NSA as modem support specs. That's all I've seen too, Vivian, is everything's been NSA up to this point. But I do think that's something we see next year. I think that is something that should be a priority for the carriers to do, because millimeter wave is a very distinguishing experience. It would make sense for that to hit the SA first, but I guess it depends on carrier. I'm assuming that would be a Verizon first, but we'll see. Hey, Steven, good to see you. Thanks for coming through. Alexis chimes in with the super chat. Need next generation home internet offers. Man, I totally agree. Actually, you know what, Alexis? To be more specific, I'll take it next level. We need better hardware for home internet. We need better gateways. Where are you at with that, EM Tech?
I agree. I mean, I feel like we've on the channel, or I mean, just in conversation, everyone's talked about the trash can, the Nokia trash can from T-Mobile, and how it is literally neutering the experience for customers when you compare it to any other offering on the market. There are other providers and other OEMs that make fantastic equipment that is able to take advantage of all these fantastic new network technologies, but it's just not making its way down to the consumer quite yet. And it's a shame, really. The plan can be there, the capacity can be there, but when the hardware and the equipment that you're given as a customer can't meet up to standards, the rest of it's pointless,
Yeah. I mean, just for the sake of the Wi-Fi performance, just for the sake of the technologies that they can utilize, like carrier aggregation, utilizing as much bandwidth as possible, getting the most capacity on the network, on that device. I think all those things go a long way. I also think for people that are in rural America, which a lot of people in that segment of the country are the target demographic, I think at some point the carriers have to look at hardware that allows customers to utilize some form of an antenna boost to improve the dB, like to give them more gain on the antenna. Because some people are only connecting to a low band carrier like N71, like LT71, like these lower frequencies where there's not a lot of bandwidth. If you can use external antenna hardware and boost that signal, it might be the difference between you being on like N71 and N41. Like if you're 5 miles away from a site with a booster, you might get N41. Without it, it's a pipe dream, right?
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking that far out, a lot of those people are either relying on private WISPs or they're relying on satellite.
Yeah.
These MNOs give consumers the opportunity to, bolster their own connection with external antennas, mounting equipment, whatever it is. You give them that flexibility, they're an easy long-term customer. Like, because a lot of those people are just dying for something better than HughesNet or something better than that private provider they're paying $150 a month for.
Man, it's bad. Vivian asks, would millimeter wave SA be a firmware update or does it need a hardware change? I think all the hardware that's been going up to like nodes and sites, I think all that's ready. I think all that's good for SA. I think it's vendor software, and I think it's user equipment as well. So I think it's two pieces there. But I expect that to change next year. So be on the lookout, and we're definitely tracking that.
HughesNet blows. Yes, it does, Eric. Yes, it does.
He said HughesNet blows. Yeah. Yeah, these are the thing, like when I look at phones that have the X55, I look at it as a transition to 5G. It's still not really the move. Like the best move is X60 or better. Whatever's coming out next year, obviously, and moving forward. That's really going to be the best answer because of voice over NR, all the SA compatibility, the whole shebang is going to be included. So is T-Mobile's business plan truly unlimited? Prioritize data. Good sales rep said I should go with business plans instead for a lot of data. Could you speak to this, EM? I'm not sure.
Honestly, I don't know a lot about business plans, but that sounds like a sales rep just really wanted to
make the sale.
This account. Yeah.
Green, thanks for the super chat, man. Always so kind and generous to support us, man. Thank you. Sneed, you should move to San Antonio to enjoy Team Magenta, low ping time in the teens, and 600 to 700 megabits on N41. Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice, man. I wish more of the sites had the N41 here. I wish they had a tighter grid here. I've got a wish list of what I wish T-Mobile did in my market, but I mean, overall, it's fine. It's not the greatest experience, but it's fine. It's good. Wherever the N41 is, it's really fast. Wherever they put up all the new tower gear, the ping times are great. I don't really have that many problems. I mean, every carrier in my market is phenomenal. So I don't really have any needs from any carriers. I think they're doing a fine job. My only concern is the tower grid. I wish they used small cells. I wish the grid was tighter. I wish the tower handoffs were a little cleaner. That's really all I could ask for. But I definitely would not move where I lived, like my residence, just to have a specific cellular provider. Like I'll take whoever's good there, Like if I end up moving to a market where T-Mobile is really good, I'd switch all my lines to T-Mobile then, right? If I move to a market where AT&T is the best and it's noticeably better than the other two, I'd move all my lines to them,
I think this brings up a good point. 600 to 700 megabits is great, but with proper backhaul, 100 megahertz of N41 should be doing way more than that. If they scaled properly with backhaul, we could be seeing gigabit plus on N41, but we're still waiting on T-Mobile to make a move. Like I see 600, 750, almost 800 on a lot of sites, but there's a lot of potential for growth, and it all comes on the back end.
Yeah. Well, the nice thing is we should be seeing those improvements moving forward, because when Verizon and AT&T start pushing out C-band, don't you think that puts a little fire under T-Mobile's caboose to kick up the backhaul? Because I would think that T-Mobile would be somewhat embarrassed if their 100 megahertz channel of N41 is not faster than a 40 or a 60 megahertz channel of N77 on Verizon or AT&T.
I think we'll conveniently see something from them around the same time we see
Right.
C-band go live.
Like, I wouldn't doubt that over the next 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, you are going to noticeably experience a more capacitive network wherever you see N41 is deployed with a good grid. But if the sites are doing like 4, 5, 600, you'll start seeing like 7, 8, 1 gig, because the backhaul actually got pushed, right? They actually went ahead, put a 10 gig connection to the site. What do you think they're going to do, EM? You think 10 gig will do for now?
For now, I mean, I think it's really going to depend on market. It's going to be on a market-to-market basis, but it'll scale very similarly to the top 46 PAs. I think that's what we're going to see.
Big shout out to MS, another super chat. We need antenna ports so badly in Maine.
Man.
Dang. Yeah. And it's just one of those things. It's the grid. You're either building sites or you're gonna need antenna boosting. And there's restrictions on how strong you can push a signal. How many watts can you actually put on the N71 signal? You got Neville the Pebble trying to push N71 to the moon. He wants a 65-mile signal. It's crazy. The name of the game in 5G is density. And they're moving in the opposite direction. I have to question that, right, E? I got to.
You're 100% right.
I mean, every RF engineer tells me you need densification. More sites, you're winning. Small cells, millimeter wave. It's crazy because Neville the Pebble and whomever else is over there at the Magenta joints, they say layer cake, but they don't build layer cake. they say it, but they don't mean it, right? Like if the layer cake's 3 layers, they're not doing anything with the top layer, like nothing. So they're making bunt cakes. They're making zebra cakes. They're making clown cakes. They're not making layer cakes, dog.
No, I mean, we saw a millimeter wave push from them around the same time that Verizon was pushing it initially. I'm talking
right.
like
Yeah.
2.5 years ago.
You remember the 6-7 markets, right?
Yep, I remember going on their website.
Cleveland's one of them.
Really?
Yeah, there's like 7 millimeter wave sites in Cleveland for T-Mobile, and they are terrible. They're not optimized. There's no attention going to them. Yeah, it's bad, bro.
It's a that one touch policy. They put it up there. They said, it's there.
One touch. We touch it once, we out. See you in 10 years, dog. Oh my goodness. Yeah, man. It's there's one site that actually does pretty well. I think it does like 1.2 gigs per second. It's over at Cleveland State. It's in their outdoor arena, their outdoor stadium. And there's a site up the street like 2 blocks away. I could stand right in front of the node's line of sight. You can't connect. They literally failed. The nodes are failing, and they don't even care, and they don't even know. They have no idea. Like, I could call in to T-Mobile engineering, get a hold of somebody, and they don't care. There's one node that's working over by the Cleveland Clinic. That one connects. It gets like 700 megabits per second. You're better off on N41.
Yeah, because that speed test will fail when you walk 10 feet the other direction.
Right. And we know like Verizon has invested heavily into the millimeter wave tech, and it's performing great. The signals become more resilient. It's more sticky. It's hanging on to the devices better. The speeds are now up. They've gone from 400. Wait, they went from 200 to 400 to 800 megahertz. We're seeing 400 megabits on the uplink. We're seeing 4 gigs per second on the downlink. We know who's doing what. It's pretty clear.
I'm surprised that you're actually in one of those markets. I'm over here seeing.
I don't know why they picked it. The only thing I could think of, E, is that it was easy to get the permitting. I can't think of anything else.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, I'm over here seeing T-Mobile LAA.
What?
Yeah, they've got all these small cells that they built like 3 years ago. They were just LTE LAA, like 40 megahertz. They've got a range of like an arm's length, or what it seems like. And they went through and ripped and replaced all the hardware with N41 on these little tiny small cells with 40 megahertz LAA. Why not just put millimeter wave up there? You have the licenses. It's better for capacity and range. Like, just do it. I don't know. I'm kind of salty about it because I think that there's an opportunity there and they kind of wasted it. But I'm not an engineer. I don't know anything when it comes to the logistics behind that. It just seemed like a poor decision.
Bruh, LAA is so bad. It is such trash. It's worse than Wi-Fi. Like, I swear, if I put the Lambo outside, I'd get better range out of the Lambo on my AT&T fiber than I would in LAA node band 46. What is it? It's like 5.8 gigahertz, right? It's a high frequency.
It's up there. I believe it sits right between like Wi-Fi 6 and Wi-Fi 6E.
Oh, so then it's a little bit lower. It's like 5.2
4?
or something. Bro, it's
No?
trash. Okay, so Verizon put a small cell in Westlake, Ohio with LAA. And I swear to you, I was outside. I was standing on the corner and I connected to it. I walked away like 2 driveways and it was gone. 2 driveways. Even mmWave with its, doesn't go through glass and watch out for the frickin' leaves. Don't fart too loud. You might lose your signal. Even mmWave can work for a block or two. LAA does not. It does not work for a block. It doesn't work for a half a block. It works in the intersection it is in. That is it. It is useless. The only use cases I can see for LAA are indoor DAS systems. Train stations, bus stations, airports. But even then, it's questionable. Like if you're going to go with a high frequency to get some speed, you might as well just do mmWave and get real bandwidth.
I agree.
You can get 3-4 gigabits per second currently on N260, N261.
I never fully understood the reason why you'd want to put LAA outdoors, especially near like let's say a busy intersection, because those folks aren't sitting in traffic for 5 or 10 minutes. They're sitting there for a minute and a half, 2 minutes. Yeah, like unless it really does alleviate enough congestion to justify it, like you're still better off with some form of millimeter wave or anything really. Something that actually provides a decent connection.
Yeah. And then you're going to get real speed. You're going to get true capacity. So like if you because here's the thing, what Verizon did was smart. They ripped out all the gear. They changed the radio. They changed the antenna. I looked at all the gear. It's different. And they put CBRS. They went 70 megahertz of CBRS on that site. So we're talking, they're doing 30 megahertz licensed. That's what they have in the CLE. And they went 40 of the unlicensed. So they got 70 megahertz on air. Bro, that is fast. I'm talking 700-800 megabits per second.
On LTE,
and that's
too,
low
right?
power, dog. That's low power. And right across the street from the node is a drug mart. And I can go in the drug mart, or it's a Rite Aid. I can go in the Rite Aid to the back corner of the store and it still connects. I'm getting 300-400 megabits. 80 megabits up, 300-400 down in the back of the store, all the way in the back.
And that's a more worthy, investment.
Sure.
At my old job, we had a Verizon macro site that wasn't too far away, and if you went outside, you could pick up CBRS from a macro and get 350 megabits per second outside from a pretty tall macro site. It's got more potential on macros, on small cells. I'd argue even indoors, depending on what the usage is. But these, I don't know, engineers would have a more solid, explanation as to why carriers do what they do. But in the age of 5G, I think LAA is going to go by the wayside.
These licenses and these millimeter wave frequencies are just the ceiling is so high with them. I mean, once we start seeing high power mid-band aggregating with millimeter wave, I think sky's the limit for the propagation and the capacity combos. That's why I think what Verizon is doing with I think T-Mobile is going to offer a really nice low band N41, N71 combo. I think that combination is going to be pretty meaningful for rural America and suburban America. I think Verizon with the C-band millimeter wave combo is going to be game-changing in urban. I think, those are the things to look forward to next year. As we move towards SA and the 5G network core, I think those things are going to be really, really fun. Lavendi chimes in. CLE is a great market for Verizon. It really is. They do it. They pull out all the stops here. Nodes everywhere, millimeter wave everywhere, tower density, small cells, CBRS. They do the whole thing here. AT&T's got a pretty good tower grid here. It's decent. They do some small cells, a lot of new CRAN that's not active yet. That should be changing soon. T-Mobile's done a hell of a job putting up N41. I'd still say they're probably at 1 out of every 3 or 1 out of every 4 sites. But I expect that to also ramp up next year. Because, like, you got to touch all the sites anyways, you know? I mean, some of the sites got N71 last year. You know, it would have been nice if they had some N41 gear to put up, but I think they'll get to it eventually. And Chame, yes, you're right. CLE is very mobile network friendly. The carriers can do whatever they want here. Cities do not tell them. Well, Cleveland doesn't tell them not to. Suburbs are a little bit tougher. You know, that NIMBY EM tech, that NIMBY is real, dog.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. What's up? Hometown Custom PCs got some. It's asking you about Verizon and offering 5G internet.
Oh, okay. Let's see here. Hey, what's up, Jamie? Sneed, what do you got to say about Verizon telling you that 5G home internet's available? It's available at your address, and it's not, they say 4G. I don't know, man. I usually, when you put in the address, it's pretty spot on. They're not going to sell you something they can't really offer you unless they can't get you the millimeter wave connection. It can be quite finicky. It's hard to cut corners. The line of sight really helps the signal quality, so that could be the issue too. You know, if they can't give you a reliable millimeter wave, then you could check to see if you qualify for the LTE. The nice thing about the LTE is the device, the gateway, also connects to C-band. So then I think essentially it becomes a 5G home at that point, right?
I believe so, yeah.
I wonder what they do with pricing if you start connecting to the C-band, right? Because 5G home is $50 with auto pay if you're a wireless subscriber. The LTE home is $40 with auto pay with a wireless subscriber. So do they just increase your price to 50, or do they just leave you at the 40 and call it a day? That'd be interesting.
I think we'll see changes to that, especially once that portion of that router, you know, can actually take advantage of C-band, we'll probably see changes. But I mean, as far as like access to 5G home goes, you're probably on an edge cell for millimeter wave. You know, your address is technically on the coverage map, but you know, you might just not be in the right location. I've got a buddy who lives half a block from a millimeter wave node with, you know, decent speeds from outside his house, but he can't get it because of line of sight issues. So it probably just boils down to where you're at, where the millimeter wave is available, and there's probably a slew of other factors. But
I wonder if they have Samsung, Nokia, or Ericsson gear over there.
That's a good question too.
The Nokia gear is garbage. It is so bad, E.
It's trash.
It is awful. The moment they upgraded the bakery nodes from Nokia to Samsung, it was a game changer. Speeds doubled, no longer needed line of sight. The uplink, everything completely upgraded with those new nodes when they switched them. And now I know why Verizon moved away from Nokia. They were going to have junk millimeter wave gear. They were going to have junk DSS software. They walked away from it, called it a day, and went with Samsung because they had the solutions. And they were able to scale a little bit. Now, they still work with Ericsson, obviously, whom I think is the gold standard for 5G gear and vendor support. But, you know, Samsung's pretty good too.
I've seen a similar thing here.
No, Carlos, it is not. It's not junk. I know the Ericsson's better. But when you say junk, dude, that's a bold statement. I've been testing the Samsung. It's pretty good. I know the Ericsson's better. But hey, dude, you know, some people like ribeye and some people like porterhouse and some people, you know, they can get prime rib. There's different cuts of steak, dog. That's all I'll say. Sneed, did you say you have a Lambo kind of driving? All right. Okay, so hashtag gift from Moose. Moose got the whole world on fire with this thing. All right. The Lambo is actually a router. Moose calls it the Lambo of routers. It's the Asus ROG Rapture AX. Is it AX or AXE 11,000? It's an incredible router, but he calls it the Lambo.
Because it's Wi-Fi 6E enabled, right?
Right, exactly. And it's a beast. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, he's raising the bar up high, calling it the Lambo. I honestly, Stephanie, if I got a Lambo, I wouldn't be able to eat lunch for like 3 years. And I would probably lose my family, right? So, I mean, I guess it could be done, but I think it'd be a very, very selfish move.
Dang, dude, this thing looks like a freaking spaceship.
It
It's
is
got,
really cool, dude. It's a great piece of hardware. I really enjoy it. It's really good.
I believe it.
Should I wait to upgrade my phone for 2022? Currently wanting an S21 Ultra. You might be able to get a really good deal on an Ultra this close to the next release. But if you like being on the bleeding edge of tech, I would just wait. I mean, we're probably 2 months away. I would say that it launches probably in February, maybe March at the latest. So hang tight, maybe. I don't know.
I remember RFK talking about the X65.
Mm-hmm.
If you're on the cusp of upgrading, just wait for the S22.
You know what, John? Big shout out to John, my brother from another, man. Thanks for the super chat, bro hamster. He's on prepaid. I buy flagship phones of last year or 2 years ago. Is that a bad strategy now with a lot of new network changes coming? It's actually not it's not a bad strategy, and I'm going to tell you why. If you upgrade to the 2021 flagship anytime next year, you'll likely pay half or less, and you will still capitalize on most of the new cellular technologies. So like the S21 Ultra, for example, that's like a $1,300 phone?
I think it's 1200.
1,200. You could probably get it secondhand market for half. Currently, I would assume that new in January or February, it's probably 700-800. Later in the year next year, you're probably looking at an even steeper discount. Secondhand, you're probably talking $400-500. I've seen that, amongst the network tech enthusiasts on Twitter. They start to sell these phones. Hell, and that's just if you're on the Android side of things, like you might want to look into maybe a Pixel 6 or a 6 Pro mid-year next year. That's pretty good. It's not as powerful as the S21 Ultra, but once you start going too far back, though, like say, for example, the 2020 flagships, I wouldn't recommend those because they're far back enough to where I think you're losing out on some of the newer technology and the newer performance. So I would say if it's a 2021 phone, you can get a good deal next year on it. That'd be a good idea. Going back too far, you'd get a great deal. Like you could probably get an S20, a standard S20 or an S20 Plus right now for a few $100. But, you're sacrificing some of that cellular that you've gotten in the last year and moving forward next year. So kind of a trade-off if you go that route.
He just followed up. He said, I'm targeting the Pixel 6.
Yeah, I think next year you get a good deal on a Pixel 6. Oh, no. Vivian says Wi-Fi 6E. I have one device that can capitalize on that connection, E.
What is it?
The Pixel 6 Pro. It's the only device that connects to the 6E.
What's funny is I have a Wi-Fi 6E router, and not a single device in my house can connect to it.
Yep. The only phone I have is because I used to have the S21 Plus. That would have worked too, I think, right?
I never got a solid consensus on that. I think that the X60 modem itself supports Wi-Fi 6E, but it was never enabled, if I remember correctly.
Okay. Green with another super chat. Thank you again, man. I appreciate your continued support and generosity. When is T-Mobile deploying C-band? Could they carrier aggregate it with N41? The C-band for T-Mobile is going to be in the second phase of clearance, which is 2023. When do they deploy it, Green? I don't know, because they have a clear dedication on N41. I think by 2023, they're mostly done with it, though. So maybe that year they start to deploy the C-band, but they don't have it in a lot of places. They were really selective about where they got the N77. So, I'm not sure if San Antonio is that market. I don't think it is. Most markets, they have plenty of N41, but yes, they should be able to aggregate the two bands together, and I don't see why not. And that would be a tremendous connection because I think they have 40 megahertz of C-band in some of those markets. That would be huge because it would be a 40 plus like a 160. You'd have like 200 megahertz of bandwidth. That's tons. It'd be really fast.
Vivian brings up a really, really solid point about Wi-Fi 6E.
All right, we'll get to that in a second here. Ryan says, I just got the Pixel 6. Can it do band 77 and 78 on C-band? Yes to both. The band 77 will be for the US. The N78 will be international roaming on C-band. So if you go to Europe or Asia, I think they also have the C-band on N78. So, yeah, that's how that'll work. Let's see here. Steph says, I'll stick with my 12 Pro Max for now. Can't blame me. It's a good phone. It's a beast of a phone. Yeah, the Pixel 6, I mean, you can get a new one for $599. So mid-year next year, I mean, you're probably talking $400, $350 maybe used, something like that. All right, let's get to, I'm looking for, let me see here. Did I miss it? I don't have any Wi-Fi 6. Oh, here it is. Okay. In seriousness, we need Wi-Fi 6E in order to make C-band and millimeter wave hotspotting full speed. That's kind of true because without 6E, you're not getting those theoretical, bandwidth type, full bandwidth speeds, right? So like when I connect the Lambo, when I got the 6E on the Pixel, I'm getting like 950 megabits per second on the downlink and uplink. I can't do that over the 5 gigahertz of the 2.4, obviously. So she's kind of right in that respect. We've now gotten to the point where the phone's Wi-Fi hardware is the bottleneck rather than the cellular. Weird that it's played out that way, Vivian, but it did happen. I didn't think that was going to happen. I think the focus with cellular became the primary and Wi-Fi took a back seat for a while. For at least 2 or 3 years, it felt. What do you say, E?
I think you're absolutely right. Even some of the dedicated hotspot devices that carriers offer, like
they're not
even
great, right?
They're not. I mean, the Nighthawk, the 5G Nighthawk from AT&T, which I've got sitting on my desk right here, it's still limited to Wi-Fi 6. If you're in a good millimeter wave market, you connect that thing, it could potentially see gigabit plus throughput, but you're not going to get that to a single device.
Yeah, you got to check all the boxes. Big shout out to Kamikaze Kid. Thank you for that super chat, bud. Happy holidays to you as well. Thank you for wishing us all happy holidays as well. There was another. I think there was another one. Oh, Steph says, depends on what you call a bottleneck, though. For most folks, you don't need Wi-Fi 6, me included. But for someone who does a lot of data-heavy stuff online, I can see the purpose. The reason I would want it, Steph, only is because I upload content to YouTube. It's like some of the... So, you know this. I'm downloading massive files, uploading massive files because now I'm recording full-time 4K 60 frames HDR, right?
Right.
If I wasn't doing that, I don't think I'd be interested in Wi-Fi 6E.
No, I mean it's really dependent on your usage. The thing is in the next few years as technology evolves and we see AR and VR become more prevalent, and other streams of connected devices, having extra throughput is going to make a huge difference. So it may not necessarily be about the today, it's more about the tomorrow, I guess.
Big shout out to Alexis. Thank you for that incredible, generous, kind donation, the $49.99 super chat. Merry Christmas to you. Thanks for all that you do in supporting us here on the YouTube side and on Patreon. Thank you for everything that you do. You've been on the Patreon exclusive podcast You've supported the SMT forever, and that continued support is so appreciated. Thank you. I wish you a Merry Christmas, a healthy holiday season, and to everybody out there. It's these are the fun times of the year, and I think it's just a reminder of being appreciative of what we have and being around and having each other. I mean, we look at what the world has given us the last 2 years, right? So we're thankful for all that we do have. And thanks again, Alexis. Appreciate it.
Real quick, check your private message on the StreamYard.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, we're gonna wind down the show. Actually, I wasn't gonna go this long. Actually.
Oh shit! It's already almost been 2 hours.
I know, man. I'm telling you, we're at an hour and 45 minutes. 2x2 MIMO Wi-Fi 6 hotspot tops around 600 megabits, mmWave, past 4 gigabits. What a problem to have. Yeah, that's we call that an embarrassment of riches, right? It's like, yeah, my Wi-Fi only does 600 megs. It's terrible. It's awful. And mmWave is the worst. It only does 4 gigs, right?
The first world probs, right?
Nah, I know, man. There's people still on 3G, and here we are, right? Dennis, good to see you, my friend. The most important thing about Wi-Fi 6 from a spec is less to do with raw speed, but more to do with how devices are handled on the network and power efficiency enhancements. I mean, there's a lot to networking. Dennis ain't lying there, you know. For someone who doesn't need to do that, yeah, exactly. I wouldn't be hard pressed, Stephanie, to run out and upgrade my router for Wi-Fi 6E. I would not. Knowing how very few devices are connecting to it, also the fact that you could argue or question the need to even have the Wi-Fi 6E in the first place. Wi-Fi 6 is plenty fast. I mean, isn't Wi-Fi 5 still doing all the heavy lifting? Right? And a lot of older camera systems and typically surveillance are at 2.4. Like, we've got plenty of band support across the Wi-Fi, and there's still room for improvement and things can get better. But I'm just saying, I'm not rushing out to pay $600, $700, $800 for a router to get 6E.
Hell no.
You know, if I spend $300-$400 on a good router 2 years ago, I'm still rocking with it. You know, unless it goes bad and then we have to upgrade or something. I don't know.
Quite frankly, even the ONT from AT&T is good enough for 90% of people. Maybe not on a range perspective, but on just a hardware level, it's a pretty dang good included piece of hardware. You know.
Yeah. Stephanie asking, what carrier and plan would you recommend for hotspot? I'm an over-the-road trucker. Okay, so I would recommend the coverage as the primary for a trucker situation. Whichever provider has the best coverage where you are running your routes, where you are traveling on the interstate. In many instances, historically, that has been Verizon. However, AT&T has changed the game. I think that they are right there with Verizon in coverage. And because a lot of their tower sites are starting to see these great upgrades, they can offer, in some cases, more capacity. So if you can somehow, Stephanie, get yourself 2 connections, that might be worth it too. Now, T-Mobile's gotten better, but I just don't see a trucker relying on T-Mobile hotspot as their primary. I think that's risky because they still do have coverage gaps in some places, as highlighted by Carlos S. Tech's live streams and testing, as we see from national crowdsourced data. They still do lack in some ways. So it's hard for me to push the T-Mobile knowing that they still have deficiencies in coverage. Because at the end of the day, I know you can back me up on this. The coverage is the most important thing. You can run 10 speed tests in 10 different places and have 1,000 megabits per second in 9 of those 10 places. And at one of those points, no network. And you would say that was disappointing. But if you have a carrier who averages 10 megabits per second, but always has it, no coverage flaws. You would take that, wouldn't you?
Definitely. And nowadays for dedicated hotspot plans, AT&T and Verizon have competitive offerings. You can get 100 plus gigs on a prepaid hotspot plan. T-Mobile, you can get 100 gigs on a prepaid hotspot plan, but if you're traveling and you're going to areas where it might be dicey for coverage, I'd pay just a little bit more for that reliable coverage through Verizon or AT&T.
Yeah, and I agree with Curtis, and I agree with Stephanie Harrison. If you don't travel much, then you get to pick your carrier, whoever's best in your region. The traveling implication matters less. Best of both worlds, you get to, if you could have two carriers, that's the best way to go, right? So you can fulfill any gaps or coverage deficiencies. And I'll also say this, Stephanie, if you're still here and I'm answering your question about the trucking situation, if you can hotspot off of your phone, Los Mobile sells all three carriers with unlimited hotspot from device, like from the phone, that I think would be great for your use case. I really do. So losmobileusa.com, head over there, check out what they've got to offer, look at their pricing. It's very competitive, and I think it's worth a shot in your use case. They sell magenta, they sell blue, they sell red. They got the whole shebang. Check them out. All right, man. I think we got it all. What's up, Jamie? The 3G is 400 megabits. Oh God, man. We're talking about 3G, really?
3G.
It's a crazy time. We're talking about 3G, dog. I don't know if I could do that anymore. I think I've moved beyond that. My T-Mobile home internet seems to be corrupting memory packets with 8 very active concurrent ports and runs out of memory heap and hangs. Announced service doesn't know how to prevent OSR flow. Those are all very problematic networking issues. So basically what's going to happen with Alexa's experience is he's going to get jitter. He's going to get high latency. He's going to get buffering video. He's going to get inconsistent throughput. He's going to have moments where he's getting 2 megabits. He's going to have moments where he's getting like 80. And his latency is probably really up and down too. That sounds like bad networking operations. Whatever they got going on that firmware on that device, plus however they're managing the network, that's terrible.
Sounds like Cox.
Oh, dude, it's the worst. You know what, Viv? I think the Verizon Los Mobile is going active this week, very, very soon, if not this week. Stay tuned for that. I think I'll make an official announcement once they do that on my YouTube channel and in my community tab. And you follow me on Twitter, so I'll definitely tweet something out for you guys for sure. Yeah, whenever it does become available, we'll definitely let you guys know. It should be very soon. But we'll keep you posted. Maybe Dennis has some information on that too. Unless Los is in here, then we could figure it out. But I know it's supposed to happen pretty soon.
Otherwise, keep up with Carlos on Twitter. He's very, very active with the community. Yeah. It's the best way to get the latest and greatest when it comes to Los Mobile.
Yeah, follow him on Twitter. At Los Mobile, I believe, is the tag. So Ricky chimed in. Friends don't let friends pixel. I like my pixel, man. What's up, Rolando? Good to see you, man.
That's a hot take, Ricky.
I gotta look into that, Viv. I don't know anything about the pricing just yet. I don't have the particulars. I'll see if I can get you guys some more info on that. I'll speak to Carlos later on, some point this week, and maybe I'll do a video. Yeah, we'll see how this turns out. Okay, Dennis, great. We got a little bit of update from Dennis here. Verizon will be a minute. We need to get AT&T activations kicking first. Verizon is able to be sold, but we need to ensure everything's in place to meet demand. Okay, so we patiently wait another update, Dennis, when you guys are kind of pushing it full throttle. And like I said, I follow them on Twitter. I'm always I'm constantly interacting in communications with the guys over there on the Los Mobile side. I will definitely let you guys know as things develop for sure. Anything for the go to the order before we wrap up the show? We're about to hit the 2-hour mark, sir.
Oh boy. Real quick, just a huge shout out to everyone in this community. It's super fantastic. I've learned a ton from everyone here. Shout out to Dennis and Carlos for being super inviting when I have conversations with them. Pete, everyone else here, fantastic. And I appreciate you for letting me come on tonight and kind of talk about the end of 2021 and what we're looking forward to next year.
Big shout out to Teddy. Thanks for coming through, man. I have no idea what the IP address is in the warning. I don't know. You guys are having some crazy problems with T-Mobile Home Internet. I don't know what's going on there. Yeah, Shame, tell the haters, go back to sleep. It's a snooze fest. Just tell them to go back to sleep. You remember that Sneed clip? Just go back to sleep, dog. I gotta, you know what I should do? I should rip that video and put it on my main channel. What do you think, man?
Make it a YouTube short.
Yeah, just do a short. Oh my god. All right, man. Guys. Thank you to everybody for the super chats. I know there were several, so I don't even know if I can go back and highlight them all, but you guys are incredible. Thanks for supporting. Please do me a favor. Please hit the like button. If you're watching this on replay, if you're watching this on the live, however you are viewing it, thank you. Please hit that like button. Share this. If you got a Twitter, if you got an Instagram, a Facebook, tell your friends, tell your family about the podcast. Tell them about the show and the content. Appreciate that very much. There's a Patreon page link in the description box. If you guys want to support us there, you can get early access to videos, exclusive podcast live streams, content videos that are nowhere else but on Patreon. You can get discounts on Los Mobile for supporting us on Patreon. Also, my Twitter handle and email address are down in the description as well. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. And we'll see you all in the next one. Peace.
Peace.